I want to talk about the MLB and this Tomahawk chop issue, right? You got some writers that won't use the word Atlanta Braves. They won't say Braves. And you have USA Today coming out against the Tomahawk chop. And what happened, Jason Stewart, what happened with Clay Travis on Twitter, right? Because he went after Passan, didn't he?
Well, you know what? Jeff Passan wrote that piece in ESPN today, and it made waves. Very critical of MLB and their inaction towards this. So Clay Travis went on Twitter shortly after. He said, all the woke blue-check sports media half-wits are furious over the Atlanta Braves Tomahawk chop. I hope the Braves do the Tomahawk chop tonight while chanting, "Let's go Brandon," to break their feeble woke brains.
Well, obviously, I'm not that far gone. I don't know. Let's just is the term Braves insensitive? Like, I'm just asking. Like, do you? I guess Indian. The problem with the Indians is they weren't actually Indians. They were mislabeled, and so it's an old term. And Cowboys didn't. Redskins. My defense against the idea of Redskins is that what was the context of why they were actually named it, and are using it to champion Native Americans, which I felt like it was, right? Like the Native American character on this old side of the Washington football helmets was that of a proud Native American warrior, right? And by the way, while we like to think, while it has been said by members of the media, and I'm sure Isaac, I know how, I guess I know you. Redskins is a derogatory. It's a slur. Like, no, it's not, because it's not used. No one labels anybody a Redskin. Oh, you're a Red. Like, they don't say that. So we're making it into be something it's not. It's just not. Now, and again, like, this goes back to when they go to reservations like that. Native Americans, that's our team. The Redskins were our team. And so we have a tendency to do this where, in an effort to be sensitive towards other cultures, we actually kind of eliminate some of the championing of the cultures. Like, so I would love for somebody, and I'd like to think I'm a decent enough listener, to explain to me what about Atlanta Braves, because Braves that's a young Indian Native American, okay, and the only other use of the word brave is brave, right? What is brave by definition? Brave by definition is ready to face and endure danger or pain, showing courage. A Native American Indian warrior, endure or face without showing fear. How is there any negative connotation? Well, you're doing the Native American, the war chant, which is not like, okay. Again, this is, I struggle with it. I'm not to the point where I'm going to call everybody woke. There are some people that are very woke and that they just want to take every sort of cultural aspect off everything. These are the same people in many that want, Washington's name and Lincoln's name taken off of schools because they had slaves. But again, it doesn't. We're looking through yesterday over the lens of today. Brave has two meanings. Both are positive meanings. Right? And if you don't like the tomahawk chop, what about the tomahawk chop is demeaning to Native Americans? I'm here for it. Isaac, can you express to me what about the tomahawk chop is offensive?
I can't, but I can offer some context and perspective. I'm a huge student of the 1991 World Series, one of the greatest World Series of all time. That was the first time that the tomahawk chop was done at Atlanta Braves games because they were last place the year before. And at the time, it was, before social media by like 15 or 20 years. It was a big controversy back in the day. There were columns about it in Sports Illustrated, which was a lot more powerful and carried a lot more weight than it did today. And also around that same time, the now Washington football team the next year won the Super Bowl, and their nickname at the time was a huge controversy then. There was a big piece on the Super Bowl pregame show that year about it. So this is not just a recent thing. It's been going on even pre-social media generation.
I understand. I'm still searching for the can someone tell me what is offensive about a war chant?
Well, I'll precede this. Back in the day, in the 80s, the Braves had a mascot, Chief Knock-A-Homa. It was NOC-A-HOMA. And that was during the 80s when they were at Fulton County Stadium.
Yeah,
and, that was the sort of thing that is uncomfortable when you even think that people once did that now. But back then, it was just a different time and it was accepted. So that was kind of the root of what eventually became the Tomahawk chant. So it wasn't so much the name Braves, it was some of that other stuff back then.
And Doug, if I could just these aren't my feelings per se, but just what I've been reading. And I think where Passan is coming from today, Jeff Passan, is that, it's something that the fans are doing. So tonight we're going to see 40,000 plus fans, most of them white, and they're doing the Tomahawk chop and the chant, which, we've seen stories since last summer, since a lot of this changed politically and stuff. We've seen teachers getting fired and stuff for doing war dances in their rooms and getting caught on cell phones.
Who? Where?
Oh yeah. Last week there was a huge controversy with a history teacher doing a war dance and putting on a headdress. And she got a ton of stuff for that.
What did she get fired? What did she get fired for?
I'm not sure if she's been fired yet or what, but the thought was to take her tenure and fire her.
Yeah, I understand. But people freak out. Are we not? If she was doing something that's culturally appropriate, then what is the controversy over? Here's what we do. We get to the point where we try and eliminate history or pretend like it didn't exist. By the way, again, I don't know what Native American culture was like back when the settlers were here. I don't know. I know many atrocities were committed by some forefathers, frankly not mine, but what happens is we all white people get kind of lumped in together. Mine came on a boat escaping stuff a long time after that, but that's okay. Right? I can't tell you what it was, but what sports gives us, I believe, is a sense of a proud culture, one that fights for the right things. The portrayal of Native Americans in most recent movies is of a proud culture that didn't have the weaponry supported by the Europeans, right? And that they had to be tougher, they had to be braver. And that many of the things we learned from them, not just in terms of raising crops, but also in terms of warfare, we use to this day. So I understand that the United States government and that landowners and how awful the Trail of Tears was and how we put reservations in places that people didn't want to live and about how hard it is on life on reservation. All of that can be true, and the Atlanta Braves is not in any way derogatory towards Native Americans. If anything, it's celebrating a proud culture, and this team is a perfect embodiment of that. Right? They don't have the money of the Dodgers. They got injuries too. Here they are, 1-1 in a World Series against the Houston Astros. That the Astros tanked to be this good, and they've loaded up with pieces. You're bringing in the baggage of a whole other argument into this one in order to make your point. And what you will do is you eliminate any Native American references in any part of our culture. And out of sight becomes out of mind. Right? I'm sure, fighting Irish, you can use that a million different ways if you want. But you know what? It's a great nickname. And oh yeah, by the way, Notre Dame, I can tell you having played there. I can tell you haven't watched all sporting events there. Source of pride. So I'm not to the Clay Travis level of trying to make this something political. I do know that there's an amount of people that are woke. I also think there's a lot of people just like, look, I don't want to do something that's outwardly offensive. Like, why? But this one, it just feels like we're reaching, that we're trying to go bend over backwards when on some levels it's got to be a source of pride for your culture to be represented in the proper way. That's what Florida State has done. That's what the Atlanta Braves have tried to do.
I think a lot of this too is like the people that want the change and that want people canceled, they're pointing out the hypocrisies. You know, why did you pull the All-Star game out of Atlanta for political reasons, but you're not doing anything here? Or why do we change the name in Washington and Cleveland, but you're not doing it here? They keep pointing out the I guess contradictions that they see, but each of them are very nuanced in their own way. But they kind of throw it all into the same group, if that makes sense.
Yep. It completely makes sense. They send things into the same group, and I don't think that's, I don't know, it's going to be fascinating. People are going to do it. I think it's cool when they do it at Chiefs games. I think they're cool when they do it at Braves games. I don't think there's a negative connotation with Chiefs. You know, Chief is the head of the Chiefs kingdom. You know, and I do think some proper cultural representation is a good thing. I also understand that we're in an era where places of leadership generally, or teams generally, bow to the whims of others. Bow to the whims of others. And they don't want anybody possibly offended. But the problem is, and this kind of goes back to, we talked about this with the Washington football team. Okay. And what people are trying, they want more for Dan Snyder than a $10 million fine and his entire front office to be fired and for him to turn over responsibilities to his wife. Like, by the way, you got to turn over your responsibilities in leading your football team to your wife. I don't care if she really does it or it's just for looks. That doesn't feel good. That's punishment. There's a question from Snyder. I'm gonna have to take one from your wife, right? Like that. You're like, what? Yeah, we can't take a question from you. You don't run the team. You do, ma'am. You know? But it comes to like, when have we gotten to when's enough? And there's an insatiable desire to have everything completely wiped clean. And I think that's wrong. The Atlanta Braves don't just represent those incredible pitchers in the 90s and this team now. Henry Aaron's championship. Remember, the Atlanta Braves started as the Boston Braves, right? Were they the Boston, then Milwaukee, and then Atlanta Braves? Is a long-standing, and they have matured the culture and cultural appropriation to where you're making, and I'm not saying you, Jason, I'm not saying you, Isaac, I'm saying people are making it about a completely different argument, and they're just using it to help that argument. And I don't think that's the right thing.